Welcome to episode 9 of On Your Marks. Today we're joined by RAND, the Penn Powerhouse, a Sydney girl who's been over in the USA for a while now, and she's back home at the moment on her summer break, which is obviously winter in Australia right now. So welcome, Ada. How are you?
Hi, good. Thank you, Sean. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So Ada's a middle distance runner from Sydney. She turns 21 next month. She's been on a scholarship at Penn State University in Raleigh, Pennsylvania, coming up to a year and a half, is it, Ada, or 2 years?
I just finished my second year.
Just finished her second year?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So she's completed her freshman and sophomore years. So today's episode is all about how starting running at a young age can help build a solid base for success as a senior runner. We'll look at Ada's training and racing as a junior in Sydney, then at what she's been doing at Penn State. Today we'll find out a bit more about what the NCAA experience has been like for the young Sydney runner. Now, Ada's raced between mainly 800 metres and 3,000 metres on the track, plus in many cross-country events. Her PBs at the moment are 2:06 for 800 metres, 4:14 for 1,500 metres, 9:06 for 3,000 metres and 16:04 for 5,000 metres. Some of her race results in what has been quite a long career for one so young include a third in the 2019 under-15 girls 800 metres at Nationals, and then moving ahead in time a little bit, she got second in the under-18 girls 1,500 metres in the 2022 Oceania Championships. And around the same time, she won the Australian All-Schools under-18 girls 1,500 metres in 2022 in Adelaide. Then moving forward ahead and getting a bit in time, she came second in the Zatopek Ondienki 3,000 metres in Melbourne, which were also the Australian Championships in 2023. In 9:30, where she was narrowly outkicked by Claudia Hollingsworth, the Olympian and world champs rep from Australia. Then she won the Australian under-20 girls 1,500 metre championships in 2024 in Adelaide. And around the same time, not long after that, she represented Australia at the World Juniors in Peru in the 2024 championships, where she came sixth in her heat in the 1,500 metres. And then moving ahead in time again, she's come fourth at the 2025 Big Ten Conference Outdoors 1,500 metres and 10th at the 2025 East Regionals 1,500 metres. She was in Penn State's cross-country team that came 10th at the NCAA Nationals in 2025. She was third in her heat at the 2026 Big Ten Conference Indoor Championships 1 mile in 4:33 and 7th overall. And very recently, she came 7th in the 2026 Virginia Challenge 1,500 metres in a PB of 4:14. So that took quite a bit of rattling off there, because you've achieved so much, and there are plenty of other little missing bits that I didn't mention, but we don't have all day to rattle through all your wonderful results. So we're going to talk training and racing development, lifestyle at Penn State, plus challenges of living in the USA. So welcome again, Ada. First of all, can you remember when you first started running as a sport?
Yes, so I first started doing little athletics in under sevens, and immediately my favorite event was the 500 pack start, which was the longest event at the time. And I think I just made it to like the zone championship meet because I wasn't that good, or I never really tried. And I showed up at the zone carnival and I found out they were giving out medals, and I ended up winning the zone 500 meter pack start. And then it kind of just went from there. That's when I realized I was good at running.
Brilliant, yeah. So the 500 metres is a long way for a 5, 6, 7-year-old, obviously.
Yes.
Quite a funny distance, half a K, a little bit further than the 400 that we're so used to when we get older. But obviously it would seem like a long way for a little runner, and that would be the longest distance in little athletes at that age group, I think.
Yes, it was. I don't think I've run one since.
No, fair enough. I think they do. Did they do on track? Did they call it on track when you were doing little athletics in those younger age groups where it was?
No, it it
formal?
was still called Little Athletics. I was with
Yeah,
my local club, Balmain,
yeah,
and it was just every Saturday morning, just down this road.
yeah. I remember more in recent times with my daughter having done little athletics not that long ago, and the much younger age groups, up till about under 8, I think it was, they called it on track, and it was far less formal, but they did do a
Oh,
5 metre pack start. But
we had like for under sixes, they called it tiny tots.
yeah, 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 very good, wonderful. Yeah. What can you remember about the Sweat Sydney Kids running group in Centennial Park?
So the Sweat Sydney group was the first group I ever went to. I remember I seem to always have been motivated by prizes and stuff because I remember you would give out like certificates, you'd do like a handicap at the end of the group, and I'd always be incentivized to really kick it the last rep. I think one time I won like a little plastic medal. I still remember that.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, no, we definitely had a whole bunch of medals and certificates and little pens and other little bits and bobs that kids love. Yeah, so you mentioned incentivised. Yeah, I think you don't need too much of a carrot dangle there when you're young
No.
to do something. And the handicap format allowed anybody to win, really. If it was your lucky day, it's a bit like winning the lottery. Anybody could get up on the podium and come away with a prize. So I'm glad you enjoyed that. Who were your coaches after I left Sydney, and then when you got a little bit older?
Yeah, so after you, I moved to a coach a bit closer to home. Danny, owned a group called Pulse Performance.
Danny
In like
Andres, yeah,
a
I've known Danny
yeah, it
for
was a
a long time.
yeah, he was on like the Bay run. We'd train around the Bay, and
Yeah,
I trained there pretty much all throughout primary school. Like under him, I like qualified for like my first state cross country championship. I was never a superstar in primary school. I think the best I came in primary school was 14th at state cross country, which was exciting at the time, but I wasn't like a standout or anything. And then in I think halfway, like year 7, I moved to a coach, Paul Switzer, and he had a group, and it was under him that I really like made my first nationals team, and really improved, and kind of took it to that next level. And he ended up retiring when I was halfway through COVID, and then since then I trained with Ben Liddy out at Rotary.
beautiful Rotary Field. Yeah, I did quite a bit of training at Rotary Field when I was young, believe it or not. Um,
Really?
yeah, under John Atherton. I don't know if you ever met John before he passed away. He
No,
passed away maybe
I
6 years
don't.
ago.
No, I never did.
Yeah, he passed away at about, I think he was aged 80, probably 6, maybe 7 years ago now. But he coached with his wife Nancy, who I'm pretty sure is still alive. And Nancy took the sprinters and John took the middle distance runners down at Rotary. And I have a lot of fond memories of Rotary. And I know Ben Liddy's been doing amazing work down there. Obviously, with the work he did with you as a junior and all the stuff you did, but with many other runners too, he's done a great job. And yeah, I'm sure he'll continue to do so. So what do you remember about your time training under Ben? What was it like? You obviously did track work at Rotary. Where else did you train around the tracks?
Yes, we do also some work. Oh, we'll do typically we have like 3 workout sessions a week. Tuesday, Thursday, and then Saturday mornings we'll do. That's when we won't go to Rotary. We'll normally do hills or like a fartlek session in Lane Cove National Park. So that will be along the road. Um, and then during track season, that will sometimes be at SOPAC on the like actual track. We'll do some speed work. So it does mix up a little bit. And then the rest of the runs are just on my own. Um, just, yeah, I normally go from home.
Yeah. Whereabouts are you living in Sydney when you're back in Sydney?
I'm in Balmain.
In
So
Bal- yeah.
normally when I go for my runs, I'll run to the Bay run and run along there. Not
Awesome. Yeah.
much soft surface. It's all road.
Yeah. Is that all? It actually used to be soft all the way around, believe it or not. Like,
Really?
yeah, way back in the day, it was like basically just a trail run with a little bit of concrete here and there, but nearly all trail. And then the trail got a bit too well trodden as more and more people moved to Sydney or grew up in Sydney. And then gee, last time I would have run there would have been on a visit to Sydney maybe 2 years ago, and it was chock-a-block full of people, really, really busy.
Yeah, no,
And
you have to pick your times, especially with the bikes, it gets scary.
yeah, I could imagine. All right. So you attended Meriden School in Sydney. Explain the racing pathway that you had to take there, for example, in inter-school events. And how would you progress to the state champs in cross country and track, and then maybe ultimately to nationals? What was the pathway there?
Yes. So when I first moved to Meriden, it was COVID years. So I kind of missed out on 2 years of racing there. But it would kind of be, so they had their own, the big one would be the IGSA Championships, which is all the other private girls' schools would race together.
Yeah,
And that's kind of what our school would care the most about doing well in, because that's when you're representing your school.
yeah,
For cross country, it would go IGSA, CIS, which is Combined Independent Schools, and then it would progress to the state championships. But for track, our like state championships is just in New South Wales. I don't know if it's the same in Victoria. Anyone can enter, so it's completely separate. You still compete for your school, but it's like yeah, there's no like qualification pathway. But my school, Meriden was always, we had a great athletics program at my school, so it was super supportive. The head coach, Nicole Bogman Stewart, she's a 3-time Olympian for long jump. And she was, yeah, it was great to be there because they had like a program for elite athletes, and it was just a very supportive environment, especially with like managing workload and things like that. We had extra support in place.
there you go. Yeah, I remember Nicole as a long jumper way back in the day, and then developing into a good coach. And I'd see her at N-Swiss meetings and that sort of thing, and see her around the traps all the time. And interestingly, she only came into conversation only last week when they released the really tough qualifying times for the World Champs next year, which you may have noticed. And
I've seen those.
they in most events they tend to tighten the screws, particularly in the running events. So sprints, I think the men have to run 9:95 and the women have to go sub 11, and going right through to every event right up to the marathon, they've pretty well gotten quicker. But someone made the comment, gee, the long jump hasn't really, and a few of the field events haven't really gotten tougher. And someone said, oh, Nicole Bogman used to jump quite a bit, quite a bit longer than that, like, 40 years ago, 35, 40 years ago back in the day.
Yeah.
That's how good she was. She'd still qualify for the championships even now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy to think. I guess there's less modifications you can make with those sort of events in terms of shoes and training and stuff.
Yeah.
It might have been, they've been less impacted by the standards.
That's true, but I mean, she was certainly really good back in the day.
She was incredible.
Yeah, an absolute gun.
Not taking it away from Nicole.
Yeah, and not taking it away from the modern jumpers as well. They're obviously doing their best and having a big crack. Yeah, so what year did you make your first national track and also your first national cross country?
So my first nationals team I made was the ALAC, Little Athletics Under 13 Championships. I made it for the 400, the 800, and the 1500. And I don't know, that event, they've changed it in prior years, but when I did it, they only select 13 girls, 13 boys, and it's very much a team event. So that was why I was doing 3 events, because they can only pick 13 girls, so they had to spread everyone across the events.
Yeah.
And that was probably the most amazing experience, because we had 2 camps in the lead up and then the actual event, and you just became so close with everyone on the team. And because it was people across so many events, I met so many people. And the actual meet, like, it was my first time competing without having my parents there. Like, they keep it as, like, I think they try use it as like kind of like a pathway competition to becoming a bit more independent, and it was a pretty amazing experience. I still think about that.
Yeah, where were the nationals? Where was
in the Gold Coast, that track? Oh, is it Runaway Bay?
Runaway Bay? Yeah. Yeah, great spot there where you have all the accommodation and you've got a pool and a gym and the dining hall and all that there.
Yeah, it's a nice track.
Beautiful track, yeah, lovely, and good trails there with kangaroos hopping around nearby and everything.
Yes.
I remember I did little athletics way back in the 70s, and it finished at under 12 back then. And you mentioned it was under 13 nationals. Well, the only nationals they had back then was for under 12s. I made the team back
Yeah.
then, and I did the 8 and 15, and it was all the way over in Perth. So we travelled from Sydney to Perth, and it was the same
That would
thing.
have
I
been
think there were 11 or 12
yes.
boys, maybe 13 boys and 13 girls, and so I did like people to double up or triple up if they could. Same
Right.
thing, really good experience being away from home, and you bonded with the team, and that kind of thing really helps instill a love of the sport, I think, in different people, and gives you that passion for the travelling and the competitive side of the things. And so,
Yes, I think it was really important to do that also at like quite a younger age for me. It was, I still like look at that as one of like the defining, one of my favorite ever competitions that I've
that's
played in.
wonderful. It can light a fire in a young heart there when
Yes.
you get an opportunity like that. That's great. Now, you won the Australian All Schools under 15 girls 1500 metres in 2019. Do you remember that?
I think it was the 2022 that I won the 1500 when I was under 18s.
Okay, so okay. Did you do anything in 2019 under 15 girls? I thought,
2019, I did win my first 800 medal. I
oh,
came
that was the
third.
800
That was
metres.
my first national medal. So
Yeah,
I ran a 2:12 800 and came third, and it was a 5-second PB at the time. So
five second
that
PB.
was like a huge. I went from 2:17. I think I ran a PB in the heat, 2:17, and then a 2:12 in the final. And that's
Yeah,
probably I just still remember just being in shock at the end of the race because it was I had no I had my goal had just been to make the final, and I had no idea that I was capable of running a 2:12. That was still probably one of the most excited I've ever been after a race, just because it was so unexpected.
so you were under 15, so you would have only been, all schools would have been the end of the year, so yeah, you would have probably been 14 then, no doubt. Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
Still, for a 14-year-old, 212, that's,
yeah, it was pretty
and to
progressive.
make such big inroads into your PBs, that would have given you a whole bunch of
Yes,
confidence moving forward.
no, it definitely did. And I'd done bad in the 1500 like a few days earlier, so it was kind of a bit of a redemption run at the time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's just massive chunk taken off there. You probably did a bit of a
Yes.
theory to run the 217 initially, and then somehow you really came through in the final. That's incredible.
Yes.
So you've made good progression. Talking about PBs and improvement, your progression over 800 metres and 1500 metres and 3000 metres was gradual. Apart from obviously that big jump there, from what I can see with your World Athletics
Yes.
profile, anyway. That was obviously quite a big jump in the in one meet, but quite gradual otherwise throughout your junior years. So I've got down here 800 metres, you ran 2:17 at 13, and obviously at 14 that jumped down to 2:12, 2:10 at 15, so you kept improving. 2:08 at 17. In the 1500 metres, you went from 4:52 at 13, and then jumped a fair bit over 2 years, down to 4:26 at 15 and 4:22 at 17. And then that kind of low 4:20s range, that puts you into selection consideration there for major junior championships like World Juniors, which obviously we'll get onto that in a minute. And 3000 metres, obviously you started that at a bit of a later age, did you? You didn't do too much racing at
Yes.
the 3K? Yeah.
No, so I was always very much like more lean to the four when
Yeah.
I was in younger years. Like I ran a 56 400 when I was like, I would have been 15, I
Yeah.
think. So and I never did, I think the reason was I never did runs until I moved to Ben's group. So I just would do my sessions. So I had absolutely zero fitness. So I always thought I was bad at cross country, bad at the longer stuff.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize it was actually because I actually just didn't run for long enough.
Yeah.
So I remember Ben put them on my program initially, and I was like, oh, I'm not doing this. And then there was one day he found out I wasn't doing it, and he sat me down and was like, well, if you actually want to improve, you probably should actually do the runs because they're really important. And at
Yeah.
first, it would just started off being like 30 minutes, and it just gradually progressed to the point. By the time I was done, had finished and moved to the US, I was doing 75-minute long runs, but that was what changed from me being unable to run a 3K to starting to be a bit better at them. It wasn't
Sure.
actually a lack of
Yeah.
talent. I don't
You worked on that aerobic engine, which you hadn't been working on too much,
Yes,
apart from
exactly.
any aerobic
Which I
component.
don't necessarily regret because I think it was good doing lower volume and building my speed at a younger age. But
Yeah.
yeah, it certainly helps.
Now, you ran the 56 when you were 15 for 400. Do you remember what you could do for a 100 or a 200? Were you ever timed officially in races in the shorter
Yes,
group?
actually, in the 100 at the school carnival, um, I did a 13:07. That's
That's
my
quick.
best I've ever done a
Yeah,
100.
yeah.
Yes.
Wow,
I
there you
don't
go.
even know if I'd be able to do that now, to be honest.
It can be hard if you're doing a bit more mileage and your legs are heavier
Yes,
and you're just not
exactly.
used to the explosion. Yeah, 100%. Um, Very good. And so the 3K that progressed from a 9:45 at 17. Was that your debut? 9:45.
Yes, it was actually. That was my
That's a very
debut.
good debut, actually. 9:45, and then 9:30 at 18, and then you're down to 9:06 at 20. That's a really good run
Yes.
too. You've obviously improved a lot over the night, over the
Yes.
3K. How did that
I
feel?
love the
I mean,
3K.
how did you now you've racked up a good 8 and you've racked up a good 1,500 metres and a good 3K as well. Do you have a preference? As to
I've definitely kind of turned away from the 8. I remember when I was first being recruited to Penn State, I was really
yeah,
interested in it because it's a very strong 800 school. But since then, I don't see myself as an 800 runner at all. And I actually think I have more potential in, I think of myself more as a 15 5K, but the 15's definitely still my favorite because I still love racing tactically and I still have decent speed. So I think it's a good mix.
yeah, I mean, you've obviously raced over the cross country, which you do 6K mainly, don't you? And occasionally 5 in
Yes.
NCAA races, but
Yeah,
bishops
it's
is,
pretty much always 6K actually.
yeah, yeah. So not too long, which you'd probably like. You'd probably prefer that to a 10. If you had to
Yes.
do a 10, it might be.
Yeah, the guy because the guys do 8K/10K.
Yeah,
So I'm kind of grateful that it's not even because I think it's also more interesting in the NCAA having a 6K for the girls because then you'll get a broader mix. Like it's not just the 10K girls dominating. Like there'll still be 800 girls who are super strong in the 6K cross. So it makes it a more interesting race, in my opinion.
yeah, absolutely. Like someone like Sophie O'Sullivan, who's like
Yes.
8:15, can run a reasonable 3K, but like very much 8:15, including
Yes.
being Olympian. She could still compete quite well over that 6K, but if it'd been 10K, she might have battled a little bit.
Exactly. I think I'd struggle over the 10K as well. So I'm
Yeah,
no advocate for changing that.
yeah. Fair enough. So then you did do a 5K and a tick over 16 minutes as well, off memory there.
Yes.
Was that your debut on the track over
Yes,
5K?
that was my debut 5K. That I'm not kidding is the hardest race I've ever done in my life. I can't even express the amount because I always think of cross country as being like aerobic pain, but the 5K on the track, I think because you're running in like a line, kind of in formation, so you have no chance to drop. Like you have no other option but just to keep. I just remember just like staying where I was, single file, and just being kind of almost pulled along. And it was just like the last 4 laps were just, I don't know how, I was crying at the end of the race because I was just in so much pain.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's a raw attrition, the long track races. Once you move
Yes.
up to the 10,000 metres and you do those 25 laps, it's really
Yeah, I
just,
can't even imagine.
it's
I
all
don't think I have any desire to do that.
yeah, yeah, very, very tough indeed. Well, I could see you running a good 10K one day, Ada. Yeah, but, be
I don't
patient.
know.
There you go. So you've done very well. Now, obviously, you made the progression. Did you gradually increase the mileage over the years? Like, obviously,
Yes.
you already mentioned that you alluded to the fact that Ben gave you the longer runs and like, aerobic runs, like 30 minutes, and then they built up to 75 minutes. That would have therefore meant added mileage overall as time went on.
Yes. Yeah, I think that was one thing that even though I didn't like look at think about it too much in the time. Like I never counted my mileage. I think that's
Yeah.
one thing I did really well throughout my junior years. So when I first up until I was with Ben, I was probably doing like 30 Ks a week up until I was like 16. And then I started with Ben. I never counted my mileage with Ben either, but he was really good about like he would up my runs by about 5 minutes every 2 weeks. So he was always super cautious about that sort of stuff and never rushed me into anything. So my mileage from when I was 16 ended up gradually increasing to when I was at from that like 30K a week to by the time I was going to college. I don't exactly know, but I probably was running about 60, maybe 65K a week.
Okay.
So that was all very slow progression.
Sure. Was there any big jump once you went to Penn State?
No, so my freshman year, that was one thing because I don't know, I feel like I had heard a lot of negative stuff about like I went into the US very scared because people kind of tell you, oh, everyone goes over there and gets injured, blah, blah, blah. So I went in super, super wary. And I didn't really up my mileage at all. All my freshman year, I was doing about 65 to 70K a week, but and they don't really enforce on us there. I don't know what it's like at other schools, but we're kind of in control of our mileage, and they're like, so they were pretty happy for me to just keep it the same as what I was doing at Ben's group. So I made sure that I wasn't, because when you're going into freshman year or going to college overseas, everything else in your life is changing, like your sleeping arrangements, your diet, you're living away from your parents, everything else is different. So I was like, at least this one thing I can keep the same and keep constant. So that was a very conscious decision.
Yeah. So you mentioned that all those changes. Now that changes usually mean some kind of pressure depending on the personality and your mentality and your approach to life. Would you say that we know that there's a lot of pressure in senior high school students in Australia because you need, if you want to get into X, Y, or Z courses in university, for example, you need to get pretty good marks. So there's pressure there due to the competition of so many kids wanting to get that mark to get into that course and all that sort of thing. So it's fairly hectic, as you probably remember. How would you compare that type of lifestyle and degree of being busy compared to when you arrived at the American university and you were left a little bit more to your own devices because you
Yes.
didn't have mum and dad, you're away from home? Were you more busy, less busy, under more stress, less stress? How would you rate that?
Say honestly less stress. I found
Yeah.
my last year of high school, like year 12, like I went to a very academic school. So even though I wasn't trying to get a particular mark for a course and I knew I was going to the US, you still kind of get dragged along with like trying to get the high, like everyone getting super high ATARs. So I studied a lot during year 12 and I kind of look back and be like, I didn't really need to do that. And then also that year, I was also training to qualify for World Juniors. So that was a pretty stressful year. So my freshman year of college, I went in like the actual academic schoolwork side of things was less than I was doing in high school and a lot less pressure because you're not trying like without the stress of an ATAR. And the workload was like the actual work I was doing. I think my school prepared me really well. It was actually, I find it easier. And then I think running wise, also less stress because you're coming in as a freshman. You have zero expectations on you. You're doing every meet for the first time, so you don't have anything else to compare yourself to. So I think that was also great as too because you don't know what to expect. Like I'd never run really a 6K. I had like a handful of times a 6K cross country before. So I was like, I don't know what I'm running is good or not. I think that was nice.
Yeah, quite incredibly, the Australian high school girls, they only do 4K, don't they, right up until under 18, including under 18.
Yes,
And then it only jumps to 6K for under 20 when a lot of the girls would have already gone to America or graduated from
exactly.
school.
Yeah, I
And
only ran the 6K like twice, just
yeah,
three times, just at like school meets. So
yeah.
I hadn't really done much cross country at all.
Yeah.
I
And
only
you
did one.
mentioned,
I only
yes,
did one national cross country my whole time in
yeah,
Australia.
yeah, fair enough. Um, and you mentioned that therefore you didn't find it quite as pressurised there, or you haven't found it quite that much pressure there in America. What are you majoring in, and what are you studying at
Yeah,
university?
so I'm doing international politics with a minor in French.
Yeah, right. Okay, excellent. Are you finding anything particularly challenging in those courses?
Not really. I've found the classes like pretty they're not too hard at all. I was like I guess the Australian equivalent of my degree, I was looking into doing like international relations. I think that would be like the closest sort of one in Australia equivalent degree.
Sure. And what are you eyeing off doing as a career?
I don't really know. I mean, I like the idea, I mean, of working in foreign affairs, something to do, something like I think government has some graduate pathways like DFAT. Um, uh, but I think they're pretty hard to get, pretty competitive to get into. Also, I like the idea of working for an international organization. Even some like, I mean, a dream job would be like working for World Athletics or something like that. But yeah, don't have a super strong idea of what I want to do just yet.
Yeah, you've got plenty of time to grow and think about it anyway in the meantime.
Yeah.
And now you mentioned World Juniors in 2024, which was also your HSC year, and that was in Peru. Now, I'm pretty sure World Juniors were in Peru. Or if they weren't in Peru, they might have been another South American country nearby. Might have been Argentina, but around the age when I was in World Juniors, or I didn't make it, but no, actually, no, it would have been a few years later because Jana Pittman ended up the great 400-metre hurdler. She made it,
Yes.
and she was studying for her HSC. And I remember her saying that she actually, I think she sat for a HSC exam while she was doing World Juniors,
Wow, that's
while she
amazing.
was in
Yeah.
South America. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so I was actually lucky. I I was that year older, so by the time World Juniors had rolled around, I was done school. So I was just able to train. It was more that like lead up period where I was running training for qualifying that I was studying. But then once nationals had rolled around, I was done school and everything. So that was actually really nice.
yeah. How did you find that experience then, being at World Juniors and travelling with the team?
That was probably the best 2 weeks of my life. Like still, it was so much fun. And Peru was such an awesome country to get to go to. I think when I first found out it was Peru, I was like a bit like, I don't know how I feel about that, but it was so awesome. Lima felt super safe. Like we were able to walk around by ourselves and stuff, which I know the previous one in Cali in Colombia, they weren't able to do that. And then it was just such a cool city. Like it was so obviously it's so different to Australia.
Yeah.
And then getting to know everyone on the team, like, because there's so many people from so many events. Like, it was just so fun. I didn't have the race I was hoping for, but it's still like the whole experience as a whole was just so incredible.
Unreal. Who were some of your teammates, particularly out of the runners, who do you recall being a few of your key teammates there?
Yes. So, I had two girls from my training group at home from Ben's group, Fleur Cooper in the 800 and Allegra in the steeple. So that was pretty incredible, first of all, to like share that experience with two of my closest friends and we all trained together. But then in terms of like other people on the team, I mean, there was some real like celebrities, I guess, like Claudia, um, in the 8, Peyton Craig in the 8, Cam Myers in the 15, like Gout, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, then Daniel Williams was also in the 15 at the time. He's coming to Penn State.
Oh,
There's yes. So there's so
yeah,
many
he'll be
people.
he's a big signing there, Daniel Williams.
Yes, yeah, that was a big one.
Entering as a freshman with a 144, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah, pretty insane.
very insane. Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, they've got a good one there.
Yeah.
Wow. I remember a good friend of mine, he moved up from Sydney to Murwillumbah, which isn't too far from where I think Daniel grew up. I think he grew up in the Byron area, up,
Yeah,
far
around like
north.
Cox kind of of way.
Yeah, up that way. Anyway, my friend, he was a masters runner and he wanted to join a local group and ended up being the same group as what Daniel was in, I think in Byron
Really?
Bay. I think they were the Byron Bay runners or something. And this friend of mine was renowned for spotting talent and then letting me know, oh, you've got to try and sign him up, Shawnee, you know. I've got a good, and I remember saying, I found a good one for you here, Shawnee. So, mate, he lives in Byron Bay, you know. And but he kept bragging about how good this young Daniel Williams was when he was about 15, 16. He could run from a very young age very quickly. Yeah. Oh well, your team will definitely shine with him if you can keep him injury free. Yeah, and obviously Claudia, she can run like the wind, and Peyton Craig, he ran a really
It's pretty
last night.
incredible being on a team with all those people who were like, some of them were just off the back of competing at the Olympics.
Yeah, Cameron Myers only just missed out, and all that kind of thing. Incredible. Now, what do you remember? You mentioned Claudia there before. What do you remember about your second place finish at the 2024 ZAPEC on Yankee Junior 3,000 metres?
Yeah, that's probably also one of my favorite ever races from my junior career. That one, I think it was only my third ever 3K. I'd run a 9:32 a few weeks earlier, which had just got me the World Junior qualifier. So I was going in like off the back of a good one, but obviously not that experienced at racing a 3K. And I remember it was a pretty tactical race, and I remember it being pretty easy. And when the bell lap came, for some reason I still thought there were 2 laps and I was to go, and because no one had like made a move yet, and the move didn't even come until 200 to go, and Claudia decided to go, and I was able to stick with her for about 100 meters, and then she made a gap on me. But I remember that being a pretty exciting race, coming second in that. I hadn't expected that, and especially coming second behind Claudia, like you can't really go any better than that.
No, I remember it being a bit of a thriller because I'd seen Claudia kick many times, and obviously being in Melbourne and I helped coach at Mentone Grammar too, where she went to school, and nobody could outkick her. Nobody could go with her when she kicked. She just had that engine, and I think you were about the first person I've ever seen who could actually kick with her, and then I think she was just a little bit stronger than you at the end.
She definitely had that extra gear, but I was pretty stoked with that. I was able to even stick for a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's certainly a sign of a good future for you and good things to come. So you joined Penn State in 2024, is that right? Yep.
So I went straight from Peru actually to start school because I started a week late. I ended up missing my first week of freshman year for World Juniors.
How did the recruiting process go? Why did you choose Penn State? So did they reach out to you? Did you go through an organisation or anything like that? So
no, I didn't go through an organisation. I reached out to them. So I went. It wasn't the first school. I'd already sent a few emails out. So what I did, I looked through all like the top schools in the NCAA, and then I looked at the 15 top runners in the 1500 and top runners in the 800, and I kind of created some sort of, I don't remember how I did it, but I created some sort of ranking system based on like the top 5 800 runners and top 5 1500 runners. I didn't look at cross country at all. At this point, I was not concerned about cross country because in my head, I didn't want to go to a school that was going to slam me with mileage. So I was more concerned about schools that had good 8 and 15, like middle distance programs.
Yeah.
And Penn State really stuck out as being a top middle distance. Like they had really strong 8 runners and really strong 1500 runners. And at the time, their cross country teams improved a lot. But at the time, the cross country program wasn't super strong. So and then there were also a few Australians over there, like Hayley Kitching had started over there. So I was aware of the school. And then I just ended up sending an email, and Ryan Foster, who's now my coach, he emailed back, I think the next day, and we set up a call. And I ended up, I was emailing a lot of schools. So it wasn't like Penn State was the only one I was talking to. I went over to the US and visited 3 schools. I visited Penn State, Wake Forest, and Villanova. And then it was only after all those visits that I ended up choosing Penn State.
Fair enough. And they're all sort of in the same part of the US there, aren't they, those 3 that you visited? Was that part
Yes,
of
they're
it,
all.
did that have anything to do with the choice of Penn State, or was it purely about performance and their running back?
No, I didn't take location into account because if we're
No.
going by location, Penn State's pretty inconvenient. It's in like a little regional town called State College, and it's 3 flights there every time. And like it's the tiniest airport I've ever seen.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and also like the east. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm on the East Coast, and time zone wise, the West Coast is way easier time zone wise to Australia, and also easier to get to. So it's not the most convenient location.
No. Well, you've managed for 2 years now. You've done really well there. Um,
Exactly.
yeah. So, did you compete cross country 2024?
Yes, I did. So, I was, yeah, so often now like it was pretty 50-50 if I'd red shirt, my first year of cross country or if I'd race. But I ended up doing pretty well. The team ended up having a great year, they came 15th at nationals, but I wasn't in I didn't make our top seven, so I wasn't good enough to be racing nationals, but I got to go as reserve. And I think I'm actually really, even though I didn't get to race or do a lot with myself that cross country season, I'm actually really grateful that I wasn't redshirted because I think the experience that I gained from even watching NCAAs and at least getting to race cross country that year really helped me to have the season that I did this most recent cross season. So I actually think it was great just getting out there and racing immediately after moving there and just like getting into it straight away. I think that was a good decision.
Sure. So, Ava, you would have just turned 19 at that point, I imagine, would you? When
Yes.
you at that point.
Yes.
So, as a 19-year-old, yeah, your first season indoor, outdoor, or cross country, you nearly made the top seven in a really good school in nationals, which is incredible because only 30 odd schools get to go out of, what is it, 300 Division One schools in
Yeah, I
total.
think it is about that.
Yeah, so they're right up there in the top 5% or 3% or whatever of schools, and you're
Yes.
there as a reserve. What was the vibe like overall, and the atmosphere at the national cross country?
It was pretty exciting to get to watch. It was at the Wisconsin at the Nuttycombe track, which is a pretty famous venue. And I remember like I didn't really have any disappointment that I wasn't racing. I was excited that I got to come along for the trip. So it was pretty exciting getting to cheer the team on. One of our girls on the team got All American, so that was pretty incredible. And then also that was a big deal, our team getting 15th, like everyone was crying at the end. So it was pretty exciting to be there and part of that moment.
Yeah,
That
that's
was
yeah,
really
very
exciting.
impressive being in the top half of the field as a team,
Exactly. Yes.
and
And
extremely tough.
because the year before they'd come, I think that they'd come dead last 30th. So
Sure.
it was a huge improvement. And the year before that, they didn't even make it. So it was a big deal.
Yeah. Now you mentioned Hayley Kitching before.
Yes.
Has she graduated now, or has she got another year to go? Or
No, she's got another. Because she came in January, so she's got another semester. So I think at this point, she's joining us for cross next year.
okay, how does she go in cross country? Because I see her as you see her in the results and the footage and whatnot, 800-meter runner.
Yes.
How does she go over cross country?
No, she's really good. So this past year, she'd had been injured that previous track season with plantar fasciitis, so that took her out, and so she didn't have really a strong base coming in this year, so she didn't end up running at nationals and being part of our top seven this year. But that year before, where we were 15th, she was our like she was our second runner. Like she was super
Wow.
strong. Yeah, and like
Yeah.
yeah, I think she'd even run a great fight with how she's running at the moment. I mean, obviously it's not her event, but she has a good 5K base. She's actually really strong aerobically.
Quite an incredible athlete there, and I was thinking Cox
Exactly.
Harbour initially. Is she?
Yes.
From Coffs-
Sorry, what did you say?
Is she from born and bred in Coffs Harbour? Is that
Yes,
right?
she is.
Yeah, yeah. No, she's done extremely well, and
No, it's pretty
in top five
exciting to
world
get to
juniors.
train alongside someone like her.
Yeah, that would be a real buzz and very motivating. Yeah, big time. So, do you live on campus?
I did freshman year. I was in the dorms, so
Yeah,
pretty much how it looks in the movies. You're sharing a bedroom, and it's just one little room. My roommate's my best friend, so we didn't. That was just by chance. Like she's also on the team,
yeah.
but I got pretty lucky with that. And then this year we rent an apartment, a two-bedroom apartment together. That's off campus, but it's probably only like a 10-15 minute walk to classes or to the track.
Virtually on campus then, very, very close.
Exactly. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
very
just
good.
barely off campus.
So you've got your roommate there. What's her name?
Her name's Eva Kinniston. She lives locally, but she's like to Pennsylvania. So that's nice because her family have kind of taken me and I go back to hers on like Thanksgiving holidays and stuff. So that's also been super nice.
Yeah, and are there any other teammates there that yeah, push you along in training, or that you're getting on really well with there on the team?
Yeah, there's another Australian on the team, Taysa Buchanan. She's run a 202 800. So we don't get to train together too much because the eight girls are pretty separate from like 15 and up. It's like kind of different training programs. But it's nice to have another Australian on the team. We came at like she's a sophomore too, so we came at the same time and started yeah, racing together. So that was nice. That's nice too.
Yeah. So, what's the training environment like when you mentioned your, 800 and 1500 meter programs are a bit different? Run us through a typical training week and where you train, what are the facilities like, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so a typical training week from us, it's a little bit different to like a typical Australian week, I'd say. So Monday we do a steady run, which is like I do 7 miles, so 11.2, 11.3K, and that's like a hard tempo run. Like the quickest I've done it in 3:38 average. I think that's the quickest I've got down to. So it's quick. But then some days it'll be, if it's like you're not feeling it, might be like 3:40s, 3:50. So that's probably honestly the hardest day of the week. Tuesday is a track workout. Typic Wednesdays is recovery day, so we just go for an easy. I'll do 6 to 8 miles um, on that day. Thursday is an aerobic run, so that's in between a steady and a recovery, probably around like 4:20 sort of pace. Again, like 6 to 8 miles, and then we have Friday is either a race, we'll either race or is a workout. And then Saturday is long run day. So I do 12 miles, so 19K long run at the moment. And then
Yeah.
Sunday is fully rest day. So I don't do anything on a Sunday.
Fair enough. So you're doing a fair bit more aerobic work now than even what you were doing with Ben, by the sound of it. It's been a bit of a
Yes.
step
Yes,
in,
because Ben
in
was
your sophomore year.
three workouts a week, and now I do two plus the steady kind of is my third workout.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you mentioned that Monday would be fairly tough, that you'd rate that as your hardest day for you physically
I'd
each
say
week,
so
maybe
because
mentally as
I also swim on that day, so I'll do a swim double. So it's almost like kind of like a double threshold.
yeah, yeah. So, and do you find that the threshold type work quite challenging then, do you?
I at Ben's definitely it was probably my worst. Like anything fartlek was my fartlek, and doing any sort of tempo run that was like 10 minutes or longer, I was like pretty bad at it. But since coming to Penn State, I love it. I've also improved a lot at it, and I think I'm actually quite gotten a lot better.
Yeah, and look, to be honest, you're probably still quite young aerobically, really, even though you've been in the sport a long time. There's been a lot of
Yes,
anaerobic and VO2 type stuff and yeah, speedy
I
work.
think so.
Yeah, and now you've
Yeah,
only.
I think that's something that I only started to realize more recently, and also
Yeah,
how like the years stack and that fitness just kind of builds year after year rather than like, yeah, so you just build on it each year as you progress your volume.
yeah. Now you mentioned swimming, obviously
Hmm.
a form of cross training. Is that the only cross training you do?
Yes. So I do swimming Mondays and Wednesdays, and I only started doing that after coming about after like to midway through my freshman year. I started doing it because I started doing it because Haley swam and she was
Right.
super fit. So I was like, well, if that works for her, I'm gonna give it a go.
So what kind of workout do you do in the pool?
I kind of make it up. I'll typically do about 1,800 meters is a
Yeah.
typical swim session for me. I'll do a 400 warm up, then 1.2K worth. I always do reps. I never do a continuous swim. So I'll do about 1.2K worth of reps. That could be hundreds, it could be 200s. The longest I'll probably rep is like a 400, um, and shortest is a 50. And then I'll do a 200 cool down.
Yep.
And it's never like I'm never going all out, but I get my heart rate pretty high, like consistently in the 180s. So it's still like I'm pretty out of breath.
Is that comparable to what you get your heart rate at when you're working fairly hard on the track, running?
Probably a bit lower. Like
Yeah.
in I get mine pretty high. Mine will hit like 190s on like
Yeah.
a steady run or a hard workout.
Yeah, sure. Do you, in the pool, do you know what your 100-meter pace would be when you typically when you're doing reps?
Yeah, when I'm doing I'm not a good swimmer, keep that in mind. Like I only started swimming. I swam a bit, like I learned to swim when I was younger and then didn't swim again until I started. Like I've been doing it for what, like a year and a half now. I think the fastest I'll go is like if I'm doing sub 140 for my 100 reps, I'm like that's pretty decent. That's a
It's still moving
pretty good
well. Yeah,
pace.
that's great.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, good for you. Uh, all right. So, what about your courses for your longer runs and your medium length runs? What are they like around the Penn State campus and environs?
I think it's great. I mean, especially compared coming from Sydney where it's just all road. We have quite a lot of trails. We'll typically do like the same kind of it's a bit boring route for like a steady run because we like to do it like reasonably flat and because we're going pretty fast. But for long runs, we'll like get to go out on the trails and like all through like the no, I was going to say bush, but it's not called that in America. Like all through like the forest and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's actually a nice part of it. In winter, it's not as nice because everything's iced over, and there's days we'll just have to go on the treadmill. But during the fall semester, it's really nice.
And you mentioned treadmill running. Obviously, that can be a bit boring. Some people love it. Do you like it?
Yes. I hate it.
Yeah.
I I find it so much harder as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, to hit
Do you ever hit a
pace.
boost treadmill or an Alter G machine to lessen the amount of body weight that you're using for a bit
I've
easier?
never used an I've never used an Alter G. No, like yeah, I've never done any of that.
Have
I
you
mean,
got
we
an indoor
use
track?
Alter. Sorry.
Do you have an indoor track?
Yes, so our indoor track, our indoor track's nicer than our outdoor track. So even what like we'll even run indoors when it's still like a little bit chilly, like and to get out of the wind, or if it's super windy, we might run on the indoor track. And we host a lot of meets for our indoor meets. And our track's really good because it's the bank is like you can press the button to make it go up or down. So we'll typically train in lane 5 at 40% bank, so then you're also lessening the impact on your body because it's not like lane 1, the curves are so tight. And then if the bank's at full bank, it's also so steep. So that's pretty rough on the inside leg. So
Yeah.
yeah,
One leg
it's nice
bringing
having
over
the,
the other. Yeah. Taking more of the force. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Fair enough. And you mentioned Ryan Foster as being your coach. How's his coaching style? What's Ryan like?
Yes. So it's pretty joint between Ryan and Kara, his wife. They both went to Penn State actually. She was a 10K runner and he was an 800 runner. And
Yeah.
now they're both my coaches. So it's Kara is very like will take the distance and Foster takes the 8. So the 15 I get a good mix of like being kind of between Ryan and Kara, both being very much involved. But they're both really awesome and they've been like they're so supportive, and I'd say they're also just like very good at like listening to me and like adjusting programs to each athlete. Like everyone on the team almost has a different different like slightly different workouts. Like there's only other girl on the team who has the same thing as me. So they're really good at adapting and making everything individualized.
Great. Yeah. Now, what kind of strength work do you do? Do you have a special strength trainer,
Yes, so we
conditioner?
have a strength coach. He's for the whole track and field team. So, but that's everything's run by him. So we lift 2 days a week. all the 1500 and up lift 2 days, like 800 they lift 3 days. So it's actually quite different. Our lift isn't super hard or anything. Like we're only in the weight room for about 15 minutes and we'll have, yeah, it will be always after workouts. So Tuesdays and Fridays is when we'll lift.
Yeah, that's a great time to do it because then
Yes,
your recovery days are real recovery days then.
exactly. Yes.
Yeah, that's tremendous. And on recovery, what are your key methods of recovery? Anything in particular? Anything more than the usual sleep and eating well and putting your feet up?
I'm big into rolling
Yeah.
and trigger pointing.
Yeah.
I don't really stretch at all, but I find if I go a day or two without rolling, I notice it. And I'm really particular about roller. Like it has to be a really firm, smooth one.
Yeah.
Um,
Don't like the
and
spiky ones.
I hate the spiky ones. Like they just hurt your skin without actually rolling the muscle out. I feel very strongly about it.
Yeah, fair enough. If you get your pro spiky and your anti spiky foam rolling
Yes.
people. And how much sleep do you average per night, would you say, while you're during a term?
I'd say I get 7 to 8 hours. Like I'm not someone I'm not a super good at sleeping. Like I'm a pretty light sleeper and have never been I take a long time to fall asleep. So I've never been someone who needs heaps of sleep, but also I know it's super important and I do go like I don't stay up late and I go to bed, but it's not something that like I feel like is essential for me to be getting 8 hours. Like it's pretty normal that I'll be less than that simply
Yeah,
just because I
right.
don't fall asleep very easily.
Okay. So you've done some amazing achievements, and obviously you're looking forward now to another 2 years in your collegiate career. What are your next big race goals?
Yeah, so I'm just right now I've just got my first ever injury, so I'm not running at the moment. So my season was cut short. So looking into next year, I think it's going to be I mean, it will be cross first, but it's like I've got a stress reaction. So I'm kind of looking ahead into next year. I think it will be a I don't know how cross will go, but because it's just going to be a bit of a comeback. But then I mean, I'd love to in terms of college as a whole, I'd love to be able to break 410 in the 1500. That's probably like my ultimate goal. Um, and then um, make an NCAA championship would be pretty awesome individually. I think
Yeah,
those would be my two main goals for my college career.
brilliant. Yeah, and I think that's becoming quite challenging. But
Yes.
at 414, you're really not that far off the mark, are you? You're knocking on.
Yeah, it's kind of like that sort of like I mean 414 isn't really cutting it anymore. Like most of the girls making it are 410 runners.
Yeah,
I mean it's just like I guess like I was stuck running like 422 for like 2 years and then got to college and ran 415 in one season. So it's and then I've kind of still 414 this year. So you never know when the next big jump is going to happen.
I'm sure it'll happen. Yeah. So where's the stress reaction, Ada?
It's in my femoral neck. So it's a bit of a rough one. I was on crutches for 3 weeks. I'm off the crutches now, but it's a bit of a rough one because it's not much blood flow there. So it takes a bit
No.
longer to heal.
That means you caught it relatively early by the sound of it, because you definitely don't want that to go down the stress fracture path, the femoral.
Yes. So it's a grade 3. I was in pain for about a month before I actually got it diagnosed in the MRI. But
Yeah.
we had all thought it was muscular. The pain kept moving around. I'd never had any sort of injury before. So I was just a bit clueless and like I didn't know what a bone injury felt like. I think looking back, I'd be like, oh, like obviously it was bad, but it's been a bit of a learning curve.
Big time, yeah. So are you able to do any training at the moment?
So I just did my first swim back yesterday.
Yeah.
We'll just go from there. I mean, I'll be able to bike soon, and then it will be a lot of cross training, which
Yeah.
I it's not fun, but I'm glad that at least I do swimming normally. So like I know how to cross train.
Look, a lot of the great runners, they end up having a spell, so to speak, anyway, injured or not, after their major championship season. You know, your championship season was cut a little bit short, but you still racked up some really good performances before your injury. But a lot of people just have that spell anyway, and you know, it seems to me like you're due for a good spell physically and mentally. You know, whether it was to heal your bone or not, you know, it'll do you plenty of favours in the long run.
Exactly. I think this is one of those that, I mean, it sucks right now, but it's probably one of those things I'll look back at and be like, wow, I learned so much from that. But that's what I have to keep telling myself. Like, I always, like, there's so many people who are injured and then come back so much better. It just takes time, and I'm going to have to be patient, which I'm not good at.
I mean, honestly, there's a huge proportion of elite runners around the world whose coaches they force them to take 4 to 6 weeks off each year.
Yeah, I've heard that. There's a few people in our team who do that as well. Like, we'll take, and I've never been that person. So this is like real, like I've always been like 1 week and then I'm back. And I think that's probably actually not good. Like, I think that's probably why I did get injured, is I wasn't listening to my body when I probably should. Like, it probably was fighting a bit against me. So I think this is a good lesson.
Yeah, and look, timing, injury, there's never a good time to be injured, but like looking at it, really, it would be just about perfect timing for you.
That's what everyone, no, it actually is, because I'm also, it's nice to be home, and not be having to crutch to class or anything, and then also not being around when everyone else is able to run and everything.
Yeah, and not talking too much track, even though you've been talking track for an hour. So on that, we'll give you a couple of quick fire questions to finish off. If you can choose one of 2 options below, that'll be great. So it's all about, what do you prefer, Ada? So first of all, Centennial Park or Bondi Beach?
For running, I'd say Centennial Park, but but I love the beach, so
good.
Probably the beach, because I miss summer so much.
Okay, diamonds or Louboutin heels?
Diamonds.
Yeah. Speed walking spikes, trainers or super shoes?
Probably super shoes.
Alrighty. Raleigh or Sydney?
Sydney.
Swimming with crocodiles or sharks?
Neither. Probably sharks, because you can get out of the water. The crocodiles.
Surfing or shopping?
Shopping.
Eiffel Tower or Uluru?
Probably Uluru, because I've never been.
Jess Hull or Lauren Ryan?
Jess Hull, gotta stand the 1500.
Cotton or synthetic casual tees?
Cotton.
The Titanic or Rocky movies?
Titanic.
Phone or car?
Probably a car.
Bagels or muffins?
Bagels.
And finally, guys with red or brown hair?
Brown.
Good. Thank you so much for coming on today, Ada.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, wonderful. Awesome. Yeah, and I'll really look forward to seeing your results and seeing how you're going in the future, the near future, and maybe quite a way down the track too.
Hopefully. Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome.
No worries. So some advice to younger athletes out there. Now you can see that Ada has made a nice progression throughout her high school and headed off to college. She has been in running groups and with coaches for quite a long time and built up a huge engine over the years. This background in the sport will stand her in good stead for great success in the senior ranks. So thanks for watching and listening, folks, and don't forget to keep your toes behind the starting line and always run hard through the finishing line, and what you do in between is up to you. Goodbye. See ya.